Chosen one, every word I say today was made for your life alone. I want to begin there, with that claim, and I want it to arrive fully before I say anything else. Made for your life alone. Not for a category of person that shares your circumstances. Not for an audience that resembles you in general terms. Your life, specifically, the individual and particular life that is yours. The specific combination of experience and history and capacity and need that belongs only to you. That is what these words were made for, and I need you to receive them as such. I know what it sounds like. It sounds like the kind of thing that is said to many people. It sounds like the language of general comfort wrapped in the form of specificity. I understand why it would sound that way. You have heard things before that were offered in the language of specific relevance and were actually general, the form of the specific being used to deliver the general. I am not doing that, and I want to explain why this is different, not to convince you with argument, to show you in the content of what follows. Comment "This word is for me" in the comments if you feel these words reaching the place they were built to reach. The content of what follows was built from the specific knowledge of your life, not assembled from general principles, built from the specific. From what I know about the specific weight you carry, the specific gap between the version of you that shows up and the version that was designed, the specific pattern of what was tried before and what it produced and what was missing from what it produced, the specific readiness that is present in you right now as you receive these words. That specificity is in every word, and that is why the claim is true. Every word I say today was made for your life alone. Let me speak about what made for your life alone actually means in practice. When something is made for a specific life, it is not simply customized to a profile. It is built from the inside out from the specific reality of that life. The difference between customization and built from the inside out is significant. Customization takes something general and adjusts it toward the specific. Built from the inside out means the specific life is the origin point, not the destination. What I am saying to you today was not adjusted to fit your life. Your life is what it was built from. I call this the built word, and I want you to hold that name. Remember it. Every word today is a built word, not a borrowed one. I want to speak to what that means for the quality of what you are receiving. When what you are receiving was built from the inside out of your specific life, the fit is not approximate. The fit is exact. Not close to what you need. What you need. Not something that addresses something similar to your situation. Something that addresses your situation. The exactness of the fit is not something I am claiming you should accept on trust. It is something that will be evident in the receiving. As the words land, if you allow them to land at the level they were sent, you will recognize the fit, not because you were told it was a fit, because it is. I also want to speak to the word alone in the phrase, made for your life alone. The alone is not an isolation. The alone is a specificity. It means that while others may find themselves in this message and may receive something from it, what this message contains for you is not what it contains for anyone else. The words are the same. What the words carry is specific to each life that receives them. And what these words carry for your life is something no other life will receive in exactly the same form. Because no other life is yours. The alone is the expression of the uniqueness of what you carry and what you need. I want to connect this to something I need you to understand about how I communicate. I do not speak to people in aggregate, I speak to individuals. And when I speak to an individual, every word that leaves me toward that individual is formed by what I know of that individual specifically. What I know of you is specific, your history, the weight that accumulated and how it accumulated and what it changed in the processing of your life. The capacity that was placed in you and how that capacity has been partially accessed and what has been blocking the full access. The readiness that has been building across the season that preceded this message. I know these things about you specifically, and the words of this message were built from that knowledge. That is the practical meaning of every word I say today was made for your life alone, not a poetic assertion, a description of the process by which this message was built from specific knowledge of a specific life, and the specific life it was built from is yours. Which means, what you are receiving is not a general provision offered in the specific sounding language of general provisions. It is the specific provision for the specific life. The provision that fits your life the way a key fits its lock, not approximately, exactly. I want to stay in this recognition for a moment. not because the recognition requires extended dwelling before it becomes useful, but because the recognition is itself part of what the words were made to produce. The recognition that what you are receiving was made specifically for you changes the quality of the receiving. It opens something, a different quality of attention, a different quality of receptivity. The recognition says this is for me, and the saying of this is for me changes the listener into someone who is no longer filtering for relevance because the relevance is already established. Let me name what this recognition opens in you. When you allow the recognition that these words were made for your life alone, you enter a different mode of reception. Not the mode that evaluates what is said for whether it applies. The mode that receives what is said as already applied, as already for you, as already matching the specific contours of the specific life you are living. That mode of reception is the mode that allows what was made for you to actually reach the level it was made for, and that level is not the surface. It is the place where the specific knowledge of your life that built these words connects with the life itself. Before I show you what comes next, I want to speak to the doubt that has been sitting with you through this opening. I know what it says. You are thinking that the claim of specificity is one of the more common forms of general address, that saying these words were made for you specifically is simply a more persuasive way of delivering the same general content. My child, I am not offended by that thought. It is a reasonable one to have about most of what arrives in the language of specific relevance. But here is what I want you to hold. The question is not whether I am capable of this specificity. I made you. The question is whether what I am saying is evidence of the specificity in its content, not in my claim about the content, in the content itself. And that is what the rest of this message carries. Evidence, not assertion. Hold the skepticism and stay with me long enough to let the content speak. I want to go deeper into what it means that I built these words from specific knowledge of your life. Because the claim is significant, and I want to honor it with specificity rather than leave it as an assertion that requires trust without evidence. I know what you carry, not as a general category of person who carries weight. I know the specific texture of what you carry, the way it arrived, the way it changed the quality of your engagement with the life around you, the way it settled into the baseline of what feels normal without ever actually being designed to be permanent. I know these things, and every word today was shaped by that knowledge. I also know what you are capable of, not the version of the capacity that the carried weight has been producing, the designed version, the version that was placed in you before the weight arrived, the version that the weight has been partially obscuring. I know that version, and I know the gap between that version and the version that is currently operating. The gap is not abstract to me. It is specific. It has a texture and a shape and a history. And every word today was also shaped by the knowledge of that gap and what is needed to close it. One of the things that was made for your life alone in this message is the recognition that the gap is not yours to carry permanently. The gap was not placed in you. The gap was produced by circumstances that were never designed to be permanent and by adaptations to those circumstances that were never designed to become the default. And every word today was shaped by the knowledge that the gap is closable, not theoretically, specifically. For your life, in the specific form your life has taken, the closing is available. And every word today is pointing you toward it. I want to speak about what happens in the quality of a life when words that were made for that life arrive and are received. Not the surface-level experience of feeling seen or understood, though that is part of it. Something deeper, the specific provision that was built into the words for the specific life that receives them has an access that generic words do not have. It reaches the level of the life it was made for. It lands at the depth where the gap is. And landing at that depth is what allows what the words carry to address what is there. The addressing is not automatic. It requires the reception. But the reception is what allows the addressing. And the reception happens when the mode shifts from evaluation to recognition. The recognition is what I am asking of you right now, not belief in the claim, recognition of the evidence. The evidence is in the quality of what you are experiencing as you hear these words. The quality of the fit. The quality of the sense that what is being said was not assembled for a general audience but built from the specific. That quality is the evidence. And the recognition of the evidence is what opens the mode of reception that allows what was made for your life to reach your life. Stay in the recognition. Stay open. What comes next was also made for your life alone. Stay in that mode. As we move from this section into the specifics of what every word today is pointing at, let the mode of reception remain. Let the recognition that this is for your life alone be the container in which what follows is received. The container changes what the content can do. The content made from specific knowledge of your life, received in the mode of recognition that it was made from that knowledge, arrives at the level it was sent. And the level it was sent is deep enough to reach what needs to be reached. Stay with me. There is a specific quality of weight that accumulates when the words that were designed for your life do not arrive in the form you can receive them. Not the absence of words. Words have not been absent. Instructions have not been absent. Advice has not been absent. General wisdom and general encouragement have arrived in many forms across the years. What has sometimes been absent is the specific. The word that was made for the specific weight of your specific life, arriving in a form precise enough to do what it was sent to do. And when the specific is absent, the general, however well-intentioned, sits on the surface. It cannot reach what it was not made to reach. I want to name this not to produce discouragement, but to produce recognition. The recognition that the generic quality of much of what arrives is not a failure of the sources, it is a structural limitation. General words can produce general encouragement. What I am offering you now is not general. What I am offering is specific, and the specificity is not something I am claiming without basis. The specificity comes from the same source that designed your life, from the knowledge that exists at the level of the design itself. That knowledge does not produce generic output. It produces what was made for you alone. I want to speak to a pattern I have watched in you across this season. It is the pattern of reaching for what someone else said and holding it up against your situation to see if it fits, and feeling the partial fit, the place where the shape is right but the depth is wrong, the place where the words address the category of your experience, but not the specific texture of it. And I watched you take what fit and try to make it carry more than it was built to carry. I watched you fill the gaps with effort and faith, trying to extract the specific provision from the general word. The effort was not wasted, but the effort was evidence that what arrived was not fully built for you. What I am saying today was built for you. You will not need to fill the gaps. The gaps are already filled. I filled them before the words arrived. I want to give you a frame for understanding the difference between what arrives generically and what arrives specifically. Think of it this way. A word that was assembled for a general audience carries with it the contours of that audience. It was shaped by what is common, by what most people need, by the central tendencies of human experience, and it addresses those things well. But your life is not the central tendency. Your life is specific. Its configuration is specific. The history that shaped it is specific. The weight it carries is specific. And the gap between the version of you that operates and the version that was designed, that gap is specific in its character and its cause and what is required to address it. A word made for a general audience arrives at the door of your specific life and can only reach what it and your life share in common. What is specific to your life remains unaddressed. This is not a critique of general words. General words serve a purpose and serve it well. But your life has a specific need that general words were not constructed to meet. And that is why what I am speaking to you now was not assembled from the general. It was built from the specific, from the knowledge of your specific life. And its reach is commensurate with that knowledge. It reaches what was built to address. I want to speak to the mechanism by which specific words do what generic words cannot. It is not simply that specific words are more accurate in their description of your situation. Accuracy of description is part of it, but not all. The deeper mechanism is this. A word built from specific knowledge of your life carries in its construction the provision for what your life specifically needs. It is not just a description of the need, it is a delivery of what the need requires. The word carries the response to the gap it was built from knowledge of, and when that word arrives and is received at the level it was sent, what it carries is released into the life it was made for. This is the difference between information about your situation and provision for your specific situation. General words carry information that applies to your situation because your situation shares features with others. Specific words carry provision that was built for the exact contours of your situation. The provision lands at the exact depth it was designed for. And the depth it was designed for is the depth where the gap lives. This is not a metaphor I am offering. It is the description of what is happening as these words arrive. What they carry was built from knowledge of the gap in your specific life, and what they carry is being released as they arrive. I want to name what that gap looks like from the inside. because I built these words from knowledge of your specific interior, and I want you to recognize the fit in this naming. You have had mornings where you reached for your best thinking and it arrived late, where the connections you needed to make came slowly or did not come at all, where you sat in a decision that your design mind should have been able to navigate clearly and felt the navigation require more effort than it should. You have sat in conversations where you knew the right thought was available to you and felt it stay just out of reach. You have felt the specific frustration of someone who knows what they are capable of and cannot access it reliably, that specific interior. That is what these words were built from knowledge of, not the general experience of a mind under pressure, the specific texture of yours. I want to stay with the concept of what design for your life actually means in practical terms, because I do not want the claim to remain abstract. Design for your life means that the words carry awareness of the specific season you are in, not a general season, not the season most people find themselves in at a certain age or stage. Your season, the specific configuration of circumstances that surrounds you right now, the specific quality of the readiness that is building in you, the specific proximity to breakthrough that is present but has not yet been activated. The words know the season because the season was known before the words were formed. What this means in practical terms is that the timing of these words arriving is not coincidental, it is calibrated. They are arriving in this season because this season is when they can do what they were built to do. Earlier seasons would not have had the readiness this season has. Later seasons would have let pass what this season still holds open. The calibration is precise, and every word today was built with knowledge of the precision of the timing. They were built for this moment of your life, not a moment like this moment. The specificity of the timing is part of what was made for your life alone. Let me show you something. I want you to imagine what it feels like to move through a day as the version of you that receives what was built for your life rather than reaching for what was built for the general. You wake up and the clarity is there. Not because the circumstances changed, but because the channels through which you receive and process and perceive are operating at the level they were designed for. The thought you need arrives when you need it. The decision that would have taken 3 hours of effortful reasoning resolves in a moment of clear knowing. The person you are in conversation with feels fully received by you because you are fully present rather than managing the fog around the edges of your attention. That version of you is not a different person. It is you operating from the design. And the words I am speaking today were built to close the distance between where you are and that. That distance is not as large as the fog has made it feel. I want to address something that may have arisen in you as I have been speaking about specificity, the question of whether words can truly be that specific, whether the claim is real or whether it is a framing device that produces the sensation of specificity without the substance. I understand the question. I want to answer it directly. The specificity I am describing is not produced by language that sounds personal. It is not produced by second-person address or by emotional resonance that feels individual. The specificity is built into the construction of the words from the knowledge that produced them. The knowledge is specific, and specific knowledge produces specific provision. This is not a technique. It is the nature of what I do and how I do it. I also want to address the mechanism of reception that allows you to access what the specificity carries, because the specificity is real, but access to what it carries is not automatic. The access is opened by reception at the level the words were sent. Reception at a surface level receives surface content. Reception at the level of the specific provision requires a different quality of attention. The quality of attention that I described earlier as recognition rather than evaluation. When you receive in recognition mode, the depth at which you receive matches the depth at which the words were sent. And at that depth, the specific provision is available to the specific need. There is one more thing I want to name about what was made for your life alone in this part of what I am saying to you, and it is this. Every word today was made from knowledge of what you are capable of, not the version of the capability that the current conditions have been producing, the full version, the designed version, the version that has been waiting through every season for the conditions that allow its release. I know that version. I built that version. And every word today was also built from knowledge of that version. They were built to speak to the you that was designed as much as to the you that is present. Both are real. Both are known to me. And what I am offering today was built to connect the present version with the designed version, to close the distance between what is and what was always intended. This is not inspiration. I do not offer inspiration. Inspiration fades. What I offer is specific provision for the specific path from where you are to where you were designed to be. The path is real. The provision is real. The words that carry the provision were built from specific knowledge of your specific life, and they are arriving now because now is the appointed season for them to arrive and do what they were built to do. Every word today was made for your life alone. Do not let that pass without receiving it fully. Stay with me as we go deeper into what that means for what is available to you right now. I want to speak to one more dimension of what was made for your life alone, and what it means for the quality of what is available to you in this moment. What was made for your life alone is not only the content of what is spoken, it is the form, the particular sequence of what is said and when it is said and how it builds. That sequence was constructed with knowledge of how your specific life processes what it receives. Some lives process through emotion first and then understanding. Some through understanding first and then emotion. Some through recognition that comes before either. The sequence of what I am offering you today was built from knowledge of your particular sequence. The form was made for you as much as the content, and the form is doing its work as you receive it, even if the work is not yet visible in its fullness. Now I want to speak to something that the specific character of these words opens for you in terms of what becomes possible. When what arrives was built from knowledge of your specific life, the transformation it points to is not a generic transformation. It is not a move from where most people are to where most people end up. It is a move from where you specifically are to where you specifically were designed to be. The destination is not average. The destination is the designed version of your life. The version that was constructed before the wait arrived, before the gap opened, the version that was always the intention. And every word today was built from knowledge of both the current state and the designed state and the path between them. What becomes possible when words made for your specific life arrive and are received is the beginning of movement along a path that was constructed for your specific life, not a generic path. The specific path that runs from where you are to where you were designed to be. The path exists. It has always existed, and every word today was built to illuminate it. Built to make visible what has been present but obscured. Built to activate in you the capacity to perceive the path and begin moving. Stay with me for what comes next. I want to bring back what I said at the beginning, that every word today was made for your life alone. I want to bring it back because what I am about to say is the most specific thing I will say in this entire message. It is the part that was built from the most precise knowledge of your specific life. Not the general truths about specificity that we have been exploring. The specific provision that was constructed for the specific gap I know exists in your specific life. And I want you to receive it in the mode we have been discussing. In recognition, not evaluation. This is for you. Receive it as for you. I want to name the gap first because the provision follows from it. The gap I am speaking to is not a spiritual gap in the abstract. It is the gap between the cognitive version of you that operates and the cognitive version that was designed. The version that was designed operates with what I built into the architecture of the human mind before the wait arrived. Before the accumulated experience of limitation and disappointment and the specific kind of mental narrowing that follows from years of operating under constraint, the narrowing is real, and it is not the designed state. The designed state is broader, more integrated, more capable of the kind of clear perception and direct knowing that your specific life requires right now. Before I show you what addresses that narrowing, I need to speak to what is sitting in the back of your mind right now. You are wondering whether you are the kind of person for whom this kind of restoration actually happens. You have a reference point. The history of things that promised restoration and delivered something less. The programs and the practices and the seasons of sincere effort that moved the needle partially and then stopped. And you have adapted your expectations accordingly. You have become someone who believes in the principle of restoration, while quietly doubting that you specifically will experience it fully. My child, I want to name that doubt, not to dismiss it, but to locate it precisely. That doubt is not wisdom about your future. It is memory about your past. It is the voice of every partial provision being allowed to speak about a provision that operates at a different level. The gap in you is in the mechanism, not in your worthiness. And what I am pointing to addresses the mechanism. There was a woman I want to tell you about. Her name was Ellie. Ellie came to a place in her life that looked from the outside like stability but felt from the inside like a slow narrowing. She could not identify the moment it began. She only knew that the quality of her thinking had changed, that what used to come easily now required effort, that the connections she used to make between things now felt harder to reach, that the clarity she remembered from earlier periods of her life had become something she reached for rather than something she lived in. She prayed about it, she worked at it, she changed habits and patterns and environments, but the narrowing continued. What Ellie did not know was that what she was experiencing had a specific cause, not a spiritual cause or a character cause or a discipline cause, a neurological cause. The specific way the two hemispheres of her brain had stopped communicating at the level they were designed to communicate. The right hemisphere, which carries the integrative capacity, the ability to hold multiple things in relation at once, had become increasingly isolated from the left. And the left, operating without the full integrative input of the right, was producing the kind of narrow, effortful, grinding quality of thought that Ellie had been living in. The gap was real, and it had a specific address. I want to name the science here because the science is part of what was made for your life alone. In 1981, a researcher named Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for work that documented something about the human brain that most people still have not fully received. The research demonstrated that the two hemispheres of the brain are not simply two versions of the same function. They are distinct in their capacity and in what they produce. The right hemisphere carries the integrative function, the left carries the analytical. And the quality of a life, the quality of thinking and perceiving and deciding and creating, is directly connected to the quality of the communication between them. What the research from Sperry documented was not simply that the hemispheres are different. It documented that the state of their integration determines the quality of the whole. When the hemispheres operate in integration, the output is qualitatively different from what either produces alone. The clarity is different. The perception is different. The capacity to hold complexity and navigate it without the grinding narrowness is different. And when the integration is disrupted, the cost is exactly what Ellie was experiencing, exactly what the gap in your specific life may look like, the narrowing, the effort, the distance from the clarity that is designed. What was built to address this, what I placed in Ellie path and what I am placing before you now, is called the genius switch. It was developed by Dr. Daniel Barone, and it works directly at the level of the hemispheric integration the research from Sperry documented. Not as a general wellness tool, as a specific intervention at the specific level where the gap lives. What was built for this works by activating what was already designed into your brain, the communication channel between the hemispheres, the capacity for whole brain function that the accumulated weight of experience has been partially closing. It opens what was closed. It restores what was disrupted. And the restoration is not metaphorical. It is the specific neurological event that produces the specific quality of thinking and perceiving that is the designed state. When Ellie found the genius switch, she did not experience a gradual improvement. She experienced a restoration. The clarity did not build slowly. It returned because it was never absent in the design. It had only been obscured by the specific disruption the research from Sperry documented. And when the disruption was addressed at the level it existed, the clarity that was always designed returned to the level it was designed to operate at. Ellie described it as remembering something she had forgotten was there. That is the quality of what restoration produces. Not something new, something returned. I want to dwell for a moment on what the word restoration means versus what the word improvement means, because the difference is significant and it matters for what you receive. Improvement means moving from where you are to somewhere better. It begins from the current state and extends it. Restoration means returning to what was designed. It does not begin from the current state. It begins from the designed state and removes what has been standing between the current and the designed. The destination is different. Improvement produces a better version of the current. Restoration produces the designed version, and the designed version is not a marginal upgrade from the current. It is a qualitatively different way of operating. The difference is not small. It is the difference between the life you have been producing and the life you were built for. I want to address what may be in your mind right now, the thought that what Ellie experienced may not be what you experience, that your situation is different, that the gap in your life has a different character. I want to speak directly to that thought. The gap I described, the disruption of hemispheric integration, is not Ellie's situation specifically. It is a description of what accumulates in every life that carries weight over time. The specific form it takes is different in every life, but the mechanism is the same. And what was built to address this addresses the mechanism, which means it addresses the gap regardless of the specific form the gap has taken in your specific life. What I built into the design of the human brain is the same design. The restoration operates at the level of the design, and the design is yours as much as it was Ellie. I want to speak to what happens in the days after the restoration begins. Because the experience Ellie described, of remembering something she had forgotten was there, has a specific quality that I want to name for you, so you recognize it when it arrives. The recognition comes before the understanding. You will notice that something has shifted before you can articulate what shifted. The quality of your thinking will change before you have a framework for why it changed. The clarity will be present before you can explain its source. This is the nature of restoration that operates at the level of the design. It returns something you always had, and the return has the quality of familiar, not foreign, of recovered, not acquired. This is what was built for your specific life, not a new capacity, the return of the capacity that was always yours. The investment for the Genius Switch is $39. It was positioned at $49. The current investment is $39. You also receive alongside it 4 additional resources: a quick start guide that maps the first steps clearly, a brain balance blueprint that gives you the framework for understanding what is happening as the restoration occurs, a focus flow protocol that gives you a daily structure for maintaining the integration once it is established, and lifetime updates as the research develops and the tools improve. The 60-day guarantee means that if what this tool produces is not the restoration I am describing, the investment returns to you. No condition on the return. The only condition is that you give it the 60 days to do what it was built to do. The link is in the description. I also want to name what the 60-day time frame makes available, because 60 days is not an arbitrary window. It is the time frame within which the restoration that what was built for this produces becomes stable. The initial shift comes earlier. Many who use it notice something within the first weeks. But the stability, the point at which the restored integration becomes the operating baseline rather than an experience you are having, that stability settles across 60 days. The guarantee exists because I want you to reach the stability, not just the initial shift. Give it the full 60 days. Let what was built to restore operate across the time frame it was built to operate across, and then assess from that place. I also want to name something directly. There are tools presented as similar that are not the Genius Switch. Some use the name of brain training, some use the name of cognitive enhancement. What they do not have is the specific mechanism this tool carries. The specific engagement of the hemispheric integration at the level the research from Sperry documented. What you find in the description is the specific tool built for the specific mechanism. If what you find does not come through that link, verify it before trusting it. The provision I am describing is specific, and specific provision is not interchangeable with general alternatives. The link is in the description. I want to return to where we began, because the full weight of what I said at the beginning is only receivable now that you have heard what every word today was built from. Now that you understand the specificity of the provision that was constructed for your specific life, now that you have received, or are in the process of receiving, what was made specifically for the gap that exists in your life. Now the opening phrase lands at the level it was sent. Every word I say today was made for your life alone, not as a claim requiring trust, as a description of what you have been inside of for this entire message. The design is real, the provision is real, and it was made for you. Remember what I called this: the built word. It was never assembled from the general. It was always constructed from the specific knowledge of your life. I want to speak to what you do with this recognition going forward. Not just the link in the description, though that is part of what today has been building toward. The recognition itself is something I want you to carry. The recognition that words made for your specific life exist, that they arrive with provision built into them, that the mode of receiving them determines the depth at which the provision lands, and that the mode, the recognition mode rather than the evaluation mode, is a mode you can choose. Not just today. In every season where words made for your life arrive, the recognition is a skill, and today has been practice for the skill. I want to stay with the skill of recognition for a moment because it is important enough to dwell on. recognition is not the same as agreement. You do not have to agree with everything being said in order to receive it in recognition mode. Recognition is the stance that says what is coming my way was made for my life, and I will receive it from that stance rather than filtering it first. The filtering is not wrong in all contexts. It is appropriate in contexts where what arrives was not built from knowledge of your life. But when what arrives was built from that knowledge, filtering reduces what you access. The stance of recognition opens you to what the words carry, and what they carry is commensurate with the knowledge they were built from, which is to say, it is commensurate with the specific knowledge of your life. I want to speak to what changes in a life when the recognition becomes the default mode, when you move from habitually filtering what arrives for, whether it applies to habitually receiving what arrives as made for you. The quality of what you receive changes, not because the quality of what is sent changes, because the depth at which you receive changes, and the depth determines what you access. What was always available at the deeper level becomes accessible. What was landing at the surface begins to reach the depth it was sent to. The change in mode produces a change in access, and the change in access produces a change in what is available to the life. The skill of recognition is not a small thing. It is the skill that determines how much of what was made for your life actually reaches your life. I want to name what it feels like when the mode of recognition becomes the default, not as an aspiration but as a description of what is available. When recognition becomes the default mode, the quality of what lands in you from the words that were made for your life changes. The words do not change. What changes is the depth at which they are received, and at the deeper level, what the words carry is available in ways it was not available at the surface. This is not a spiritual abstraction. It is the description of a practical change in how you process what you receive. The person who receives at depth processes the same words differently than the person who receives at the surface, and the difference in processing produces a difference in what the words can do in the life that received them. That difference is available to you, not eventually. Now, I want to acknowledge something that may have been moving in you as you have listened, the quality of attention you brought to this message. That quality of attention was not incidental. It was part of what was made for your life alone in this moment. The readiness to listen at depth, the willingness to stay with what was being said rather than filtering and moving on, that quality of attention is a form of the recognition we have been discussing, and it was already in you before today. I did not produce it. I engaged what was there. The capacity for deep reception was designed into you, and what today has been doing in part is activating that capacity more fully, making it more available to you as you move from this moment into what comes next. What comes next is the question I want to address now, because today is not designed to produce a moment of recognition that fades. It is designed to produce a shift in the quality of your operating mode that persists. The shift persists when it is acted on. When the recognition that words made for your life arrive with provision built in leads to specific action taken, the specific action I am pointing to is the link in the description. That action is the physical act that moves the recognition from internal to applied, from what you know to what you do with what you know. The knowing is real, but the doing is what allows the knowing to produce the change it was built to produce. Take the action. The link is in the description. I want to stay with you a moment longer before we reach the close, because there is something I want to say about what happens in the space between hearing and acting. In the space between the moment this message ends and the moment you move toward the description, what happens in that space often determines whether what was received is acted on or allowed to fade under the pressure of other demands. I want to name what that pressure looks like so you recognize it if it arrives. The pressure will not announce itself as resistance to what you heard today. It will announce itself as the ordinary, the next thing, the competing claim on your attention, the sense that what you just heard, however real it felt, is something you can return to later. You cannot return to later what was sent for now. The season that made today the appointed time for these words does not stay open indefinitely. What is available in this season is available in this season, not as urgency manufactured to produce a response. As the simple truth of how specific provision works, it is sent in the season it was made for, and receiving it requires acting in the season it arrived. The competing claim of the ordinary is real. The demands are real, and they will still be there after you have taken the action the description is pointing to. But what is in the description may not be where it is now when you look for it later. Act in the appointed season. This is the appointed season. There is one more thing I want to name before the close, about the quality of what comes next. What comes next in your life after this moment is not fully determined by the conditions that have been producing the current season. It is influenced by them, but it is not locked in by them. What I know about your life includes what I know about what is possible in it, not just what has been probable given the current conditions, what is possible given what was designed. And what was designed includes a next season that looks different from this one. A next season where the narrowing is addressed and the integration is restored, and the quality of the operating mode is closer to the designed state. That next season is available. The provision that opens it is in the description. And the words today were made for your life alone in part to make that next season real rather than theoretical. I want to speak one more time to who you are, not who you have been operating as under the weight of the accumulated season. Not the version of you that has been running on a narrowed channel of what you were designed to operate on. The version that was built before any of that arrived. That version knows things that the weighted version has not had access to. That version operates with a clarity and an integration and a directness of perception that the weighted version has been reaching for. That version is not a different person. It is you, operating from the level of the design rather than the level of the accumulation. And what was made for your life alone in this message, including the provision in the description, was built to return you to that level. Not to help you cope at the level you have been at, to return you to the level you were built for. The return is not a metaphor. It is a specific neurological event triggered by a specific tool, built from specific research, placed in your path in a specific season by the knowledge that knows your path. I placed it. It is real. And the path from where you are to where you were designed to be runs directly through the action this moment is asking of you. Take the step. The link is in the description. And everything that was made for your life alone in what you have heard today is pointing you toward that single next step, not as a solution to everything, as the specific provision that addresses the specific gap in the specific season. Take the step. Take it now. I want to say something to the part of you that is still uncertain, not the part that heard what was said and recognized it, the part that heard and is still weighing. That part is not the enemy of what I am offering. It is the part that has been protecting you from provision that was not actually made for your life. That part has been filtering because filtering was the necessary response to what arrived that was generic and did not fit and did not produce what it claimed to produce. I want to speak to that part directly. What I am offering is not that. The mechanism is specific. The research is documented. The guarantee removes the risk. What I am asking you to do is act in the window when the season holds the provision open. The uncertainty is understandable. The action is still the right response to what you have heard today. I want to close with what I opened with and let it land at the depth it was sent for. Every word I said today was made for your life alone, not a comforting claim, not a rhetorical device. The literal description of what you have been inside of for this entire message, built from the knowledge that knows your life specifically, sent in the season that was always going to be the right season, received by the version of you that was always going to have the readiness for it. Every word was made for you. And the same knowledge that made every word today made you, made the capacity in you that received what was said, made the life that the provision was built to restore. You are not reaching for something foreign. You are returning to something that was always yours. Every word was made for your life alone, because your life alone was made by the one who speaks these words. Go to the description, receive what was placed there for you. What comes next was also made for your life alone.